Rip Van Winkle by Washington Irving, adapted by John Miles, performed by Joe McKernan, Carl Barnett, and Tawana Brown. The Catskills are magical mountains that change every hour of every day. Sometimes their peaks seem covered with golden crowns. Sometimes they wear hoods of gray. Always they hold mystery. This story tells of the magic of the Catskill Mountains and what happened to a man who lived there. At the foot of these mysterious mountains, a colonial village once stood. In the village, there lived a kindly hermit named Rip Van Winkle. Everyone in the village loved Rip, especially the children. He took them fishing, built them a tree house, and taught them to fly kites. One morning, Rip left his house with his gun and headed straight for the mountains. He climbed higher than he'd ever gone before, to a wild and lonely place. Exhausted, Rip lay down on the soft green moss that covered the rocks. For a long time, Rip lay there in peace, until the sun was low in the sky and the mountains cast their mysterious shadows over the valleys.
Oh no, it will surely be dark before I get home.
Suddenly, he heard a voice call his name. Rip looked around, but all he saw was a crow.
My ears must be playing tricks on me. I'd better go home.
As Rip started down the mountainside, the air turned cool and a sudden stillness settled over the mountains. Through that stillness, the same voice called again. Rip felt chills go up and down his spine, for walking slowly towards him was a strange figure with a thick gray beard.
Who is he? And how does he know my name?
Rip was surprised to see a little old man in old-fashioned Dutch clothes, carrying a large ale keg on his shoulder. The little man didn't say a word. He just made signs for Rip to help him. Rip was frightened, but he couldn't refuse. So he and the stranger took turns carrying the keg up a rocky path. From time to time, Rip heard long rolling peals like distant thunder.
It's only thunder showers somewhere in the mountains.
They finally arrived at an opening in the rocks where a group of strange little men were playing a game of ninepins. All of them had beards and were dressed in Dutch clothes from long ago. One had a big head with little piglet eyes. Another had a nose as long as his face. None of them laughed or spoke, and everything was quiet. Only the noise of the rolling balls echoed through the mountains like rumbling thunder. Rip's guide poured the ale into large flagons and made signs with his hands for Rip to serve them in. Since they paid no attention to Rip, he soon became less frightened, and when no one was looking, he even dared to sneak a sip of ale from one of the flagons. One sip led to another, until Rip felt as if the ground were spinning beneath his feet. He sank down, closed his eyes, and fell into a deep sleep. Rip awoke on the very spot where he had first seen the little old man and the keg. It was a beautiful sunny morning.
Surely I haven't slept here all night.
Rip remembered the strange men, the ninepins, and the ale.
Oh, that wicked ale. Hey, where is my gun?
As Rip looked around for his gun, he only found a rusty old rifle leaning against a tree.
Those men must have taken my gun. I have to get it back.
Using the rusty rifle as a cane, Rip spent the morning searching for the men, but Rip could find no trace of the opening in the rocks or the strange little men. Poor Rip didn't know what to do, but he had to go back home. As he entered the village, he saw many people, but he didn't know any of them. Everyone stared at him and stroked their chins. After a while, he did the same. Rip was astonished.
How could my beard have grown so much in one night?
Rip's beard was 2 feet long. Everything was strange. The people, their clothes, and their houses.
This can't be the same village I left yesterday. I'm afraid the drink from that flagon was a magic potion that addled my brains.
Rip found his own house in ruins. The roof had fallen in, and the doors and windows were broken. Rip hurried back to the village inn where a crowd of people were gathered.
Doesn't anybody here know Rip Van Winkle? Doesn't anyone here know me?
At that very moment, the oldest and wisest man in the village hobbled through the crowd to Rip. The old man looked closely at Rip's face.
It is Rip Van Winkle. Welcome home. Where have you been these past 20 years?
20 years? Why, they felt like one night to me. I took a walk up the Catskills to a place I had never seen before, and...
As Rip told his story, everyone was amazed except the old man.
Of course. The Catskills have always been haunted by strange beings. Every 20 years, the Dutch explorer Henry Hudson, who first discovered the river, comes back to the mountains with his crew from his ship, the Half Moon. My own father saw them once, playing their games of ninepins and drinking flagons of ale. And I myself have heard the sound of their rolling balls like distant thunder.
From that moment on, Rip never drank another drop of ale or took long walks again in the Catskills. Even to this day, people tell the story of Rip Van Winkle and the magic drink in his flagon. And when there's thunder in the Catskills, they say that Henry Hudson and his crew are playing their game of ninepins.